Hey, welcome. Today, we're going to have a presentation on the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. We currently have about 32 participants, which is more than I expected on this training, so I'm happy to see so many people here. My name is Courtney Neubauer, and I will be doing this presentation today. I also have Chandra Scott that will be available for questions at the end of the presentation. By the end of this training, participants will understand the federal and state regulations for the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. Participants will also understand the requirements and best practices for operating the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. The Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program began as a pilot program authorized as part of the 2002 Farm Bill. The pilot was intended to identify best practices for increasing fresh fruit and vegetable consumption among students and to determine the feasibility and student interest. By 2005, the pilot program was operating in 14 states and several Indian tribal organizations. In 2008, the Farm Bill was converted the pilot program into a nationwide fresh fruit and vegetable program. The Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program is a grant program administered at the federal level by USDA and FNS. The Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program is administered at the state level by the Louisiana Department of Education, Division of Nutrition Support. At the state level, states are required to solicit applications from individual elementary schools, select specific elementary schools for funding, and to provide oversight of school implementation. Schools are to utilize fresh fruit and vegetable funds to provide fresh produce to students at no cost. The goal of the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program is to increase children's exposure to and consumption of a variety of fresh fruit and vegetables throughout the entire school day. Teaching children healthful eating habits at an early age helps to promote a healthy school environment and improve the health of the students. These goals can be achieved by expanding the variety of fruits and vegetables children experience throughout the week, increasing fruit and vegetable consumption, and making a difference in the children's diets to impact their present and future health. Fruits and vegetables are good, low-calorie, low-fat sources of vegetables, minerals, and fiber. The Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program shows children that fresh fruits and vegetables are healthy and tasty alternatives to snacks that are high in fat, sugar, or salt. Section 19 of the National School Lunch Act requires that schools with the highest free and reduced price enrollment be given priority for participation in the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. This criteria ensures that the program will benefit low-income children that generally have fewer options to consume fresh fruits and vegetables on a regular basis. To determine the schools with the highest free and reduced price enrollment, states may use the school data reported each October. Other criteria include being an elementary school, participating in the National School Lunch Program, and completing the annual application. The total enrollment of all schools selected in the state must result in a per student allocation of $75 per year. Once USDA provides the annual funding limit, LDOE will first award benefits to the returning schools who continue to meet the criteria. After all returning schools have been awarded, the remainder of the balance is awarded to new schools. As a participant in the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program, you must follow these basic guidelines. All schools that participate in the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program are required to widely publicize the program. Produce must be available at no cost to all enrolled elementary children. Schools are required to provide nutrition education with some components of the program, but it is highly encouraged that complementary nutrition education is regularly provided. Schools must follow appropriate food safety guidelines, which are critical in the prevention of foodborne illnesses. All reports should be processed on time in order to receive reimbursement. All procurement and Buy American standards must be followed. The fresh fruit and vegetable produce must be provided separately from all other child nutrition programs and be served during the school day. As best practice, it is encouraged that schools provide the fresh fruit and vegetable program a minimum of twice a week, offering both fresh fruits and vegetables. It's encouraged that you be creative with the appearance, delivery, and variety of fruits and vegetables provided, and to communicate, collaborate, and train all staff that are involved in the fresh fruit and vegetable program. The fresh fruit and vegetable program is intended for elementary school age children. Any child who is considered a member of the school and who is present during operation of the fresh fruit and vegetable program may participate. This includes children that attend a child care center, Head Start program, or a split session kindergarten if they are enrolled in that participating school. Teachers responsible for serving the fruits or vegetables to their students are also encouraged to participate and taste the produce alongside their students to model positive eating habits. Other adults at a school who are not directly involved in the program may not participate. Keep in mind that no additional fresh fruit and vegetable funds will be provided for teachers. Schools must stay within their per student allocation of $75 per student. For students with disabilities that prevent them from consuming fresh fruit and vegetables, the same rules apply as with the National School Lunch and School Breakfast programs. The schools must provide accommodations for these students within the constraints of their medical condition as allowed by their physician. A diet prescription signed by a recognized medical authority must be on file. The school food authority should make both the parent and the child's physician aware of the program in order to determine which items are acceptable choices for modification. For example, some items may need to be cooked and/or pureed. The parent and physician should select what is suitable. Again, the goal of the fresh fruit and vegetable program is to introduce students to a variety of fresh produce and expose them to unique varieties that are not always seen on a day-to-day basis. There is no minimum serving sizes for the fresh fruit and vegetable program, and it is encouraged to adjust the serving sizes based on the age grade group of the students served. It is also recommended when introducing a new item to start with a smaller taste test portion. The fresh fruit and vegetable program may only operate during the school day and not during any other child nutrition program. The fresh fruit and vegetable program may be provided during a year-round school summer session if it is considered part of the regular school year. However, not during summer school or summer programs. It is important to remember that the fresh fruit and vegetable program must be monitored at all times. If serving the fresh fruit and vegetable program during an after-school snack, ensure there is a system in place for picking up leftovers, documentation, and cleaning up the program. Allowable items include any fresh produce variety. You may serve cooked vegetables and prepared dish such as salsa once a week. However, it must be accompanied with nutrition education. Nutrition education is a great opportunity to describe the produce in its original state and provide further information such as nutrient content, food pairings, and recipes. Dips may also be served, but only with vegetables, and the dips must be low fat, non-fat, and in 1 to 2 tablespoon servings. As a reminder, the intent of the program is for students to connect with the taste of natural, minimally processed fruits and vegetables. Unallowable items include any item that has been processed or preserved, such as freezing, drying, or canning. Juice is an unallowable item, as well as smoothies. Dips are not allowed with fruit. If dips are purchased with other funds and served with the fruit may not be claimed using fresh fruit and vegetable funds. Fruits with added flavorings or infusions are also not allowed and would include items such as grapples. Coconuts are also an unallowable product under the fresh fruit and vegetable program. The most successful distribution area for the program will be places where children can easily consume the fruits and vegetables. The techniques used to distribute the produce will depend on the number of factors. Consider the grade level, the maturity of the students, the time available to eat the fruits and vegetables, the time required for prep and service, extra cleanup, garbage concerns, and staffing issues. Multiple delivery methods are allowed and encouraged with this program. For example, produce can be delivered to each classroom each day, as well as having baskets of fresh fruit available in the hallways for when children pass between classes. Kiosks may be located around the school, plus free produce and vending machines may be offered. Produce can be set up in the cafeteria if it's convenient, but the produce may not be offered during the school breakfast or lunch programs. The produce may also be part of nutrition education activities. The focus of the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable program is to bring fresh produce into the school for distribution to children. For many children, the produce they see in school might be their first exposure to fresh fruits and vegetables, or the only ones they see that day. This is why nutrition education is critical to the program's success. Educating students on the produce they are consuming is a great way to build acceptance and participation in the produce you are introducing. Studies have also shown that by exposing children to new foods, they overcome picky eating behaviors, which is largely encountered at the elementary school age. It may take up to 12 introductions to a new food before a child will decide to try it. Just remember to be patient and keep trying. Be a role model and make food experiences fun and educational. When planning nutrition education and activities, consider collaborating with internal and external partners and stakeholders. Partnerships have been essential in the success of the program and can help schools better manage the program, resolve logistical challenges, and help maintain and implement nutrition education. Please remember, nutrition education cannot be paid for with fresh fruit and vegetable grant funds. However, there are many free resources available to help you with education, materials, ideas, and promotions. A few best practices for incorporating nutrition education can include developing nutrition activities that fit your students' age, grade level, building relationships with partners to assist with nutrition education, resources, and materials. Partners can include extension offices, FFA, and 4-H programs, farmers, producers, dietitians, nonprofit entities, parents, and anyone in the community. Involve students to help create posters and materials. It can be a great nutrition education lesson. You can also include nutrition education and fresh fruit and vegetable promotion in monthly newsletters, publications, or even on social media. You can highlight the program's availability, the produce of the month, what you're serving for Tasty Tuesday, and a new variety being served. Fruits and vegetables are an important part of a healthy diet. And as we emphasize the importance of serving and consuming fresh produce within our schools, we must ensure produce safety is a top priority. To prevent the contamination of fresh produce, food safety strategies must be implemented during all stages of the process. The first step is ensuring the produce you receive is safe. So always know your source and purchase from reputable suppliers. Upon receiving, ensure staff are trained to properly inspect, accept, or decline all deliveries. Staff must be trained to verify receiving temperatures, expiration dates, produce quality, invoices, and documentation. Should follow all proper storing procedures and ensure you follow recommended storing temperatures for the variety of produce items. As always, ensure items are properly covered, labeled, and dated. When handling fresh produce, remember no bare hand contact with ready-to-eat foods. Always wash produce under cold running water in an appropriate produce sink. When preparing fresh produce, ensure food safety principles are followed, such as proper hand washing, cleaning and sanitizing of all equipment and workstations, prevent cross-contamination, and maintain adequate time and temperatures. When transporting produce, remember to follow basic food safety practices to ensure food is safe and follows all state and local food safety standards. Ensure proper equipment is utilized and time and temperature is closely monitored and recorded. At the end of service, staff must ensure leftover produce and supplies from the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program service are received and documented. In order to prevent a foodborne illness from occurring, it is your responsibility to ensure food safety and HACCP procedures are in place and staff are in compliance. Staff should be trained when they are first hired and on an ongoing basis. As a reminder, please always contact your local health department with questions concerning state and local compliance. Procurement is a multi-step process for obtaining goods, products, and/or services at the best possible price. Procurement policies and procedures must be followed when purchasing fresh produce for the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. The state of Louisiana has waived the state small purchase threshold when purchasing local agricultural products. Small quotes can be used for produce that is less than $250,000. Also, as a reminder, currently we do have a suspension of the Louisiana public bid law. So on October 27th, Governor John Bel Edwards extended the emergency provisions due to COVID-19 public health emergency in the Proclamation 204 JBE 2021. This includes the suspension of the Louisiana public bid law, and this proclamation extends the provisions through Wednesday, November 24th, or as extended by any subsequent proclamation. Also, as a reminder, the regulatory authority found in federal procurement regulations, formerly known as 2 CFR 200 320 F2, and is now 320C3, allows operators to use the emergency non-competitive proposal procurement method to negotiate a new one-year contract for school years 21-22. Just yesterday, we posted a new USDA memo regarding updates to the federal micro purchase threshold. Changes were made by OMB to the federal informal procurement method, micro purchases, and the micro purchase threshold. And you can see memo 2233 for more information on that new memo. Institutions receiving funds through the CMP may apply a geographic preference when procuring unprocessed, locally grown or raised agricultural products. While legislation permits institutions to apply geographic preference, it is not required. However, you should purchase locally to the maximum extent practical and appropriate. The Buy American provision requires schools to purchase to the maximum extent practical domestic products. A domestic product means an agricultural product that is processed in the United States substantially using agricultural products that are produced in the United States. Purchases made in accordance with the Buy American provision must still follow the applicable procurement rules, calling for free and open competition. SFAs should include a Buy American clause in all product specifications, solicitations, purchase orders, and any other procurement documents so the vendors are aware of this requirement. Limited exceptions to the Buy American provision allow for the purchase of products not meeting the domestic standard. However, before utilizing an exception alternative must be considered. Alternatives or exceptions to the Buy American provision may be approved by the SFA. However, documentation must be on file explaining the reason for the alternative or exception. Such reasoning could include the product is not produced or manufactured in the United States in sufficient and reasonable quantities, or competitive bids revealed costs of a U.S. product that are significantly higher than the non-domestic product. With the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program, it is encouraged to introduce children to new exotic varieties. As a reminder, if using one of these exceptions, documentation must be kept on file. Each awarded school will be allocated a different sum based on the enrollment. Allocations are determined based on the threshold of $50 to $75 per student. The Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program is a grant-based program, and funds are awarded per school. Schools operating the program will receive a grant allocation, which is intended to cover all program expenses throughout the school year. The Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program operates during USDA's fiscal year, which is October 1 through September 30th, which is different from the National School Lunch and School Breakfast programs. Under the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program, a set allocation is awarded to the schools at the beginning of the school year and must be utilized in its entirety throughout the year. It is imperative to maintain a budget to ensure all fresh fruit and vegetable funds are tracked and expended in a timely manner. The award should be able to fund the program throughout the school year. Adjustments may be made to service days and portion sizes if money needs to be spent faster or slower. Any money spent that exceeds the school's award cannot be reimbursed by the state agency and will have to be paid for by the district. Fresh fruit and vegetable program costs are broken out into two categories: operating and administrative. Both categories allow for labor and equipment costs. However, there are slight differences between the two. Operating costs include costs for running the program, such as preparation and service, in addition to smallware purchases. Administrative costs include costs for planning, oversight, and management, in addition to large equipment purchases. Administrative costs cannot exceed 10% of the school's total allocation. Administrative costs are limited to 10% of the school's total FFVP grant. Administrative costs include planning the program, managing paperwork, and large equipment purchases or leases. Any single item more than $250 must be approved through the equipment justification form. The justification should explain the need for the additional equipment, why the current equipment is not sufficient, how many times the fresh fruit and vegetable program will be offered each week, and any other information that will support the purchase. If the equipment is being used for other school feeding programs, the purchase must be prorated among all the programs. For example, if a new refrigerator was purchased and it was used for the fresh fruit and vegetable program 25% of the time, only 25% of the cost may be claimed. Operational costs are the costs of running your fresh fruit and vegetable service. You can include buying, preparing, and serving fruits and vegetables, low-fat and non-fat dips for vegetables only. Buying non-food items like napkins, paper plates, serving bowls and trays, cleaning supplies, and trash bags. Value-added service, such as pre-cut produce and salary and fringe benefits for employees who are involved with preparing, distribution, setting up, restocking, and cleaning up the fresh fruit and vegetable program. Operational and administrative labor costs should be reported in the claim month for which the hours are worked. The labor that is reported must include the hours worked during the fresh fruit and vegetable for that month, multiplied by the paid rate. The pay rate does also include the benefits. Most of a school's fresh fruit and vegetable funds must go toward purchasing fresh fruits and vegetables. All non-food costs must be carefully reviewed and deemed reasonable, given the extent of program's operations. Labor costs should be minimal in both the operating and administrative categories, and only cover time spent on fresh fruit and vegetable related tasks. It is recommended that all labor claimed be documented on timesheets or a comparable reporting document. Inaccurate reporting and lack of sufficient documentation may result in denied reimbursement. If schools purchase equipment for the FFVP, they must provide written justification to support the purchase. For example, the justification should explain the need for additional equipment and why the current equipment is not sufficient for fresh fruit and vegetable operations. Should maintain all fresh fruit and vegetable documentation for 3 years plus the current year. Documentation should include, but is not limited to, the purchase orders, invoices and receipts, contracts, timesheets, health inspections, nutrition education, promotion and activities, production records, and menus. Financial management best practices consider are establishing a monthly fresh fruit and vegetable program budget, ensuring administrative funds remain under 10% of the school's allocation, and labor hours for the fresh fruit and vegetable should average no more than about 1 to 2 hours per service day. It is important to spend all of your fresh fruit and vegetable grant funds. If funds are left over, they must be returned to USDA. The goal is to utilize 100% of your grant funds. If you are noticing you need to cut back on spending or need to increase spending, here are some best practices to consider. You can host a taste testing event and bring in new and exotic varieties. You can host an end of the year or kickoff fresh fruit and vegetable celebration. You can increase the number of fresh fruit and vegetable serving days each week. You can increase the portion sizes. You can look for opportunities to enhance and improve fresh fruit and vegetable operations, such as purchase, harvest baskets, ice pillows, fruit slicers. You can verify fresh fruit and vegetable labor is efficiently being tracked and claimed. And you can highlight local produce and the seasonal harvest. These best practices mostly address how to spend funds. However, some can be reversed to help reduce costs if needed, such as reducing serving days and portion sizes. The fresh fruit and vegetable claim for reimbursement must reflect invoices for when you buy, not when you serve. If you make a purchase toward the end of the month and the food isn't served until the next month, the claim must list the correct invoice date. Claims are submitted by site and reimbursement must be submitted within 60 days following the close of the claiming month. Keep in mind, this is 60 days, not 2 months. If you have to make an adjustment to your claim, the adjustment must also occur within the 60 days of the close of the claiming month. Only direct costs can be claimed. General administrative or central office costs may not be claimed. It is important to note that funds cannot be transferred between sites within a district. Now let's review a few tips for preparing for your administrative review. Off-site review procedures, including validating one claim for reimbursement for each fresh fruit and vegetable school selected for review. The reviewer will verify that the majority of the fresh fruit and vegetable funds are used to purchase fresh produce, that equipment purchased are justified and properly prorated, that labor and non-food costs are minimal, that administrative costs are within 10% of the school's total grant, and that claims are submitted one time and accurate. On-site review procedures include observing the fresh fruit and vegetable operation for each site indicated. The reviewer will ensure that fresh fruit and vegetable is provided to all eligible schools free of charge and widely publicized throughout the school. The reviewer will ensure the fresh fruit and vegetable service occurs during the school day and not during another child nutrition program. That only allowable items are served, that all food safety and HACCP principles are followed. It will verify any nutrition education for cooked or prepared produce items, and they will verify any dips served are low fat or non-fat and only served with vegetables. This slide includes USDA regulations and resources regarding the fresh fruit and vegetable program. We've also included some additional produce resources like handling fresh produce in classrooms, the produce safety website that USDA has created, and other great resources for you to refer to. That now completes the fresh fruit and vegetable training. If you have any questions, feel free to post those in the chat box and we'll be happy to answer those for you. We do have a question that has come through. The question is whether or not production records are required for fresh fruit and vegetable program. And the answer is no. Production records are not required for the fresh fruit and vegetable program. We have one more question. The question is whether or not teachers are allowed to pick up the daily offering, and that is allowed. So if the teacher is with their class and their class is receiving the fresh fruit and vegetable program items, that teacher can also receive that offering. It's a great role model to the children to see their teacher also consuming that fresh fruit and vegetable item. If there are any other questions, please post those in the chat box and we'll be happy to answer those for you. Okay, there doesn't appear to be any more questions. I hope that this training has been very beneficial, and that you've maybe learned some new information about the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. Feel free to reach out to us either by email or by telephone, and we'll be happy to answer any additional questions that you may have. Thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing most of you for our next training. Thank you.